We are recording. So welcome to Claver Hill. My name's Anna, as I'm sure you're aware, and I'm involved in this community food growing project in Lancaster. We've pitched it as a tour of the farm, and I'm really grateful that we're not there in person today because it's chucking down with rain, and I don't think you would have had a very enjoyable experience with me trying to film live from my Fairphone. So thankfully, Gina, can you just say hello and give us a wave?
Hello everybody.
So thanks to Gina, we have a beautiful 15-minute film of the project, which I'm going to play, and it gives you a tour of the site and the different projects on it. So after that video, I'll open for some questions, and then we're going to hear from some of the Claver Hill members today. And I just want to introduce them before we start. So Kathy, can you say hello and unmute yourself?
Hello.
Yeah, so Kathy is involved with the Nature Trail and Spud Club and general all sorts of things linked to the Claver Hill project. Then we have Rachel.
Hi everyone, nice to be here.
Yeah, so Rachel's involved with Spud Club. She's our health and safety officer for the project, which during a pandemic is no small feat. And Rachel's also supporting us in putting in place projects to work with teenagers on the site. Then we have Laura and Martin. Can you give us a wave and a hello?
Hello. We're based at Claver Hill as well, and we have a small cut flower farm.
Great, thank you. And we'll see and hear some more about that in the video and later. Then Victoria, do you want to give a hello and wave?
Hello.
Some of you might recognize Victoria from the Sewing Cafe session. And Katrina, do you want to give a wave and hello? Yeah, so these two, as well as Gina and Kathy, are involved in the Sewing Cafe Lancaster project. Oh yeah, sorry, Enda. Yeah, they're all involved in the Sewing Cafe Lancaster project, which has a natural dyes collection on the site. Have I missed anyone else? I don't think Zia is here yet, unless Zia, you are the CFL, but we'll wait to see if Zia comes later. Ah, and we're joined by Dennis, just in time. Dennis, do you want to say, Dennis, do you want to just say hello and a wave?
Hello.
So Dennis is involved in the Lancaster Seed Library project and also has been involved with Spud Club over the years. Right, so I'm going to stop talking and I am going to play this video, and I really hope it works. So fingers crossed and enjoy. It will last about 15 minutes, I think. So I'm just going to do that now.
Claver Hill is a place really rather than a big organisation. It's a place where people can have some space as communities to do things they want to do. When Joy and I first saw Claver Hill, it was just a field and it had nothing in it at all, a big triangular field. And we decided that we wanted to buy it, which was a rather strange thing to do, but that we wanted to turn it into a place where people could grow food. We also wanted people to come and do that as a community, not as allotments where everybody was on their own, but where people could learn from each other. Volunteers started coming and Spud Club started, and really that was the beginning. And when people came, then more things started happening. Claver Hill is organised and run by the people the projects that come and work there.
One of the things that we do, which is about sustainability, I'm particularly involved in one of the projects which is called Spud Club, where we grow and share the food that we grow. People think it's an allotment, but it's a community food growing venture. We try and decide and work together and grow together and share what we grow and pass on any excess food that we grow. Sometimes we sell it for a nominal price, a donation. We try and give it to people who need it and share it, and we just try and make sure that those who need the food can get access to the food.
Hi, welcome to Horseshoe Farm Flowers. We're based up at Claver Hill. I'm Martin, and myself and my partner Laura, we run Horseshoe Farm Flowers, where we grow cut flowers. Yeah, we have a passion for growing beautiful scented flowers with no air miles. We don't use any pesticides or anything like that, so everything's fresh and natural. And we've been doing it on Claver Hill since March, and it's just been fantastic for us.
So the Lancaster Seed Library is here at Claver Hill, and we're growing a whole range of different seeds from different types of beans. We're trying out a lentil, we have these Palestinian pumpkins, these giant sunflowers, some rocket from Greece. There's stuff from all over the world here, and we're trying to adapt it to the Lancaster wet and cold climate. And it sits in the heart of Claver Hill. We save some seeds and we share them with Spud Club, and we also save some seeds from Spud Club to then share with the wider community.
Hi, my name is Zia, and I run a small project here where I'm just training asylum seekers and refugees how to grow food, especially vegetables. So this project really encourages living in Lancaster to come at least once a week here, and just to enjoy their time, meet their friends. Just if they want, they can practice here. At the end of the day, they can bring something home, because we are here to produce things for them. So yeah, you know, most of the time people come with their families, children, and their children are playing here, and then their parents sometimes they do practice gardening with me here, and they really enjoy it, and I also enjoy it because so far I have met like more than 100 people from around 15 countries speaking different language and things, so I really enjoy it.
Hello, my name name's Katrina and I'm part of Sowing Cafe Lancaster, and I'm here today to introduce you to our living demonstration of natural dye plants. We're interested in this really because we're so concerned about the environmental impacts of textiles in the world today. Dye is a massive contributor to pollution in many ways, and it's also got many negative impacts on human health. To try and find a realistic and viable alternative for dyes really begins right here at home.
Hi, I'm Enda, and I'm also a member of Sowing Cafe Lancaster, and have been involved in the growing of the plants and in the dye project. And I was just thinking there while Katrina was talking that the colours are absolutely beautiful of these plants, and you know, at this time of the year, as well as being beautiful for people to look at as well as functional, they also, the amount of bees and butterflies is just quite amazing really.
So the Transition Edible Nursery complements the Seed Library because it's developing heritage varieties of plants. So every year in around February or March we run a grafting workshop where we teach people how to graft apples and pear trees, and we use heritage varieties that we source from Blacksbottom Farm and other local gardens around the district. And all the trees that we graft are then raised in the nursery, and then we share them with community gardens around the district or for public spaces for guerrilla gardening.
I'm one of the people who developed the Nature Trail with a group of ladies from the Ridge, and we have many art installations along the Nature Trail. This is one we call the Beast. We also have many wonders of nature. We have an ash tree which is growing out of a breeze block. We have a little small forest with baby trees that have self-seeded, and we have lots of water features and a forage area and the herb garden and edible flower gardens that we look after as well. So I do hope when we get it reopened that you will come down and join us for a walk on the Nature Trail.
So I really hope you got to see that. And yes, someone's clapping. Gina, I think you should have an applause. So everyone unmute. Thank you for that video. And if you don't know what a trombone-shaped squash looks like, I remembered I have one in the house. This is a tromboncino squash. I hope for those that joined us whilst we were watching that video, you could still watch it. So I'm sorry if you couldn't, but I'll just offer a little bit of context. So Claver Hill is a community food growing project based in Lancaster in the northwest of England. It started in 2013 and it's grown organically over the years, being shaped by the people who come to the project and the interests and skills that they have. It's very much been shaped by the people. And it's worth saying that at the start of lockdown, like for many organisations and people, it offered us a chance to innovate and reflect on what we're doing and how we can do it better. And if anything, the project has thrived and looks way better than it has ever done in its history, basically. So at the start of lockdown, we put in place a rota system so people could come up in groups of 6 and still be physically distanced and could still work on the land. And if anything, it showed the importance of projects like this in communities, particularly where people don't live in a house with a garden or don't have access to green space. This place became so important for not only offering that time to go outside and to have almost like a sanctuary, but also to still stay connected with other people. So it's been a really important place during this year in particular. And what else should I add? Oh, and it also gave us the chance to put in place projects this year that we had known that we needed to crack on with, but hadn't either had the resources or the time to do it. So during that video, you would have seen that weirdly shaped lake that looks a little bit like an elephant or a smiley face. So over the last 5 years, or since we've been on the site really, we've noticed a pattern of increased rainfall and increased runoff onto the site. And last year it got to the point where we were getting this temporary lake with ducks and everything on it that just meant that the site was almost unusable, and it put the site almost at risk of not being able to continue. And we have locally a guy called Rod Everett who has a lot of experience with permaculture design, particularly around water management. And at the start of this year, he came and supported us in designing a natural flood management scheme. And the purpose of that design, so you would have seen the big lake, but we have a number of small holding ponds that fill up and fill into each other. And then they connect up with streams that go both underground and over the land. And the aim of the design is to both slow the run of water on the site so that it doesn't flood and it moves in a way that's useful for us using that land. It's been designed to increase habitat. So over the next few years, I'm sure we're going to see a range of wildlife, different plants and other things that will come onto the site. And Kathy will talk more about that. And it also is going to be designed to clean the water that comes through the site. So the water currently that we get on is polluted with silage, pesticides. Oh dear, I'm going to have a scan. So it's currently polluted, and we're going to have a series of reed beds that filter and clean up the water. And it's not the reeds that do that, but the bacterial connections that form with the roots that help clean the water up. Right, do we have any questions at this point? Claire or anyone? If you raise your hand if you have a question, at the moment. Otherwise, we'll go and start hearing from the different project members. No? All right, that's cool. So let's start off with Rachel and Spud Club.
Okay, and also like anyone else who's involved with Spud Club, please step in or add anything, because I guess Steve would normally be the person that would speak about it, and he's the guy you saw on the film. So I think Spud Club is probably one of the main ways that people get involved with Claver, at least to start with. It's one of the most visible things on the Claver site. Is most of those growing beds that you'll see were associated either with Spud Club or with the refugee project. And Spud Club is I don't know if it's the largest, but probably one of the largest in the country experiments in some ways of a no dig technique for growing vegetables. And no dig is where you put organic matter on top of the soil to build up your organic matter, and you grow vegetables in that soil. So there's no need to turn the soil over. And it's a technique that's been used by various different gardeners, and it's one that Steve was very keen to try out. And I think when Caroline and Joy asked him to be involved in the site, he suggested, oh, let's try a no dig approach. And Spud Club works in a way that you join as a member. I think there is a membership fee of £10, which is a voluntary donation, I think, as well now. And if you join as a member, you basically give time, you turn up on site, you work with other people. We used to have 2 volunteer days, the Friday and the Sunday, where you could guarantee there'd be a lot of people on site. And on Sundays, there's normally between 20 and 40 people sometimes. On a Sunday, we stop for a tea break. And you all just muck in, you do the jobs that need doing. There's various ways of sharing the jobs. Steve is really good as well at like producing videos or kind of walking us around and showing the kinds of things that need to be done. Weeding, planting out, weeding. Yeah, there's lots of jobs. Watering, a lot of watering in the summer or in May, in springtime. And in return for the time that people give, you get to harvest the vegetables that we're growing, and the fruit and other things, I guess, around the site. People can turn up as much and as little as they like in normal times, which is really nice. So I guess with the allotment, there's a lot of pressure on you to always be there. You don't have that kind of community around you of friends to learn from, but also to share stuff with. It used to be really nice actually going off to work in the summer and just contributing a bit to what everyone else is doing. So you're part of a community of people growing vegetables together. It's quite nice when you just turn up in the week and you don't see anyone else, but you know that everyone else has been there throughout the week kind of contributing to this, and you can see small things that people have done. Yeah, and then since lockdown, we've obviously had to go to a rota setup, which is 6 people per project on site. So it has changed in some ways. Some of the community feel that we used to get on Sundays, and I guess on Fridays as well for people who went on Fridays. But it still actually has worked really well. You've still kept connected via various ways. We have meetings. We're trying to make them much more regular, so we have a sense of kind of community, even if it's virtual. And also it's really important because I think everyone gets to feed into what we'd like to experiment with growing over the next years, so we can plan out as a community what we'd like to grow. There's some staples that we grow, like spuds and carrots, so they have some really strange and different things, I guess, like the trombone squash that Anna showed you. Yeah, people can come with their ideas of what they might want to do. Yeah, is there anything else? What is the membership structure? Is that in relation to Spud Club?
So we can talk about that, I guess, as the whole of Claver Hill and see if we answer it. So in terms of land ownership, part of the story that I missed out, which I should probably describe, is in Lancaster we have we had a very active Transition City Lancaster group. And as part of that network, we had a food group that me and various other people here were part of. And we used to do a visioning day every year of what we wanted to see in our city happening around food. And the idea of a urban farm came up multiple times. And then we were lucky enough that 2 of the transition members saw a piece of land come up, and they offered to buy it with their life savings, essentially. So Caroline at the start of the video was one of those ladies. And they bought 21 acres. So that includes the 6-acre Claver Hill field and then the wider, you might not have seen it on the video, but there's a wider area of land around the site that's been planted up with trees and is let for grazing animals and other things. And so the land was privately owned, and this year we've raised funds to buy out one of those ladies' area of the field, and the area that Claver Hill sits on is going to be put into community trust, which essentially puts an asset lock on the site and prevents it from being developed on. So one of the aims of this project was to prevent developments from going ahead and to create this resource that allows for education. So the land will be under community trust, essentially. And then all the other projects on the site, so I'll let Rachel talk about how Spud Club organises itself, but they all have slightly different ways of organising, and each project is represented at a Claver Hill Management Committee meeting. And every year we have an annual AGM, as does every organisation, where we invite the wider community to come in and hear what we're doing and shape up how the project develops going forward.
Yeah, and I guess Spud Club works on a membership. As I said, like, people give a nominal fee of £10, and I guess we're trying to create, this is kind of interesting because at the moment we're actually working to try and create a governance structure for Spud Club, because things used to work really quite smoothly, I guess, when we saw each other on a regular basis every Sunday, but things are different now, and so we're trying to find a way that we can actually have some governance at Spud Club that then can feed into, I guess, the wider Claver Hill governance. Would you say that's an accurate representation of that? And people get as involved as they want to, like, that's the beauty. Like, when you have time, you often want to have time to give more, and people often want to give more, but also there's an understanding that some people have less time or times in their life when they can do less, and that's also fine. So it has a really nice flexibility there.
And I guess it's worth saying that the project has had different people come and go, and with that you have different energies and interests. And at the start, I guess it's fair to say that for Spud Club it attracted a lot of people who were really keen growers, and the whole focus of the project was on growing and growing really well. But the benefit of the project in terms of building community and offering a supportive community kind of fell by the wayside a little bit, and we were forced in those earlier years to rethink what we were, and we underwent a process called dragon dreaming with the support of a local facilitator, and we had a winter where we met up really frequently to wild dream about where we wanted the project to grow. We looked at our own resources and why people were motivated to come to the project. We had this almost like a game where you look at how you view the project internally and how people outside of your organisation view your project, and we look to create a balance between producing good veg but also creating more of a space for that social building. And through that learning process it became clear that not everyone wanted to have involvement in decision making. Some people just wanted to come, grow and leave. And so we went from being very, I guess, we had a number of us, myself included, really wanted a flat structure organisation where everyone was involved in decision making, and it became clear that that wasn't going to work for the people that come up. And so we have we've gone into a bit of anarchy right now, and we're just about to review the process again and see what we need to do going forward. Anything else you want to add, Rachel?
I think that's good. I don't know, there's a couple of questions in the chat. I don't know if they're for Spud Club or more general. There's one about water butts near the trees, and I would say that I think all our water butts are connected to features, aren't they? Like, we have features for storage, and then we always try and collect water off the roof, and we're putting more in, because at the moment, well, now we seem to get really heavy downpours and then no rain for 2 or 3 months in the summer, so we're trying our best now to collect as much water as possible.
Yeah, and I'll take it. Yeah, it's good to take questions as they come. So someone has asked how is the project funded? So Spud Club, like Rachel mentioned, that we have this voluntary membership fee of £10. Some people don't pay it, some people give a lot more, and that essentially covers the key costs of running that project. So getting the spent mushroom compost in, getting seeds, and the other small bits and pieces. To do larger projects like the natural flood management project for this year, we got grant funding, and we've had grant funding to put in place some of the infrastructure on site, and that's come from various local green and environment funds, the lottery, Heritage Lottery, Balloon Rivers Trust, and weirdly Greg's this year. So it's come from a range of places. And then for the polytunnels, we're aware we'll have to replace the polytunnel skins at some point. And so one polytunnel, so we have two on site. One is used to grow produce that is sold to local cafes, and that is raising enough money to then eventually pay for that work to replace the polytunnels and other infrastructural stuff on site. Are there any more questions linked to Spud Club at the moment? I guess with the water, so Rachel mentioned the water butts are connected to roofs. The other clever thing about the ponds that we have on site, one is set up like a siphon, so that we can now water plants at the bottom of the site using gravity-fed water irrigation. So that should transform, hopefully, our experience of those dry spring periods next year, but we'll have to feed back on that. So it seems we don't have any more questions at the moment. So shall we go to the nature trail and Kathy?
Okay, yeah. We got a group of ladies that were from the local estate in 2016 who wanted to do a project. We were all over 60, and we just had, except for one person's granddaughter who was 10 and she had learning disabilities. So we just got together to do a bit of brainstorming, and we said, well, what should we do? And the little girl said, well, let's make a nature trail. So we got a little bit of funding, £600. And we just started again brainstorming about what we could have on the nature trail. And so basically it goes around the perimeter. It starts up at the top with a bee and butterfly haven where we've planted lots of flowers, follows the hedgerow round, and it goes through a bit of the woods, which we planted all those native deciduous trees, and we put some bird boxes up, and there's lots of deer that come on the nature trail, so you can always look for footprints for the deer. We put up some bird hides with natural feeding areas, and we put in a forage area where you can forage things like rose hips, hawthorns, acorns, hogweed, all sorts, elderberries, elderflowers, all kinds of things, nettles that you can forage. And then it came up to the top of the field where we have our fruit hedge, where you can pick raspberries and all sorts of berry fruit, and apple trees are along there. And it goes through the Spud Club, which we did experiment with a hugelkultur bed, which is a way that you build a mound over some excess wood, bits of wood, and then it would never, in theory, ever need watering, even in a drought. And it's probably true, because we got masses of flowers and we've never watered the thing, but we also got masses of weeds. And we made the hugelkultur bed in the shape of a dragonfly, and we planted strawberries and flowers on it. And then going through Spud Club, because there's a lot of nature in Spud Club as well. I mean, and some of the weeds are edible weeds as well. And we put in an edible flower garden, which was a nice experiment. And we sort of worked with the herb garden as well as part of our project. And later on, where we had our grand opening in 2017, we had a really big party and everybody came from all around Lancaster and it was a lot of fun. And then we started the next year saying, well, what else can we do? So that's when we started putting art installations along the nature trail. So we just picked up things that people had donated to us, like some black piping, and we made a giant spider. We had some scaffolding poles and we made a musical xylophone type instrument. And we made the beast. You saw that up on the video. And yeah, so we just had a lot of fun. And now with the beehives that have arrived this year as well, one of the main ladies who was helping with the nature trail is taking over the care of the beehives. So that's, yeah, we just enjoy, enjoying the nature. Even the dock, which is considered a weed, has its benefits because the dock beetle is the most beautiful fluorescent green beetle you've ever seen. I just love it. I mean, I hate the dock because it's not very good for Spud Club, but the beetle is just absolutely amazing. And yeah, so we always are finding really interesting bits of nature. I mean, I noticed the other day as I was walking the nature trail, we have a wooden sign and it has this most amazing fungus on it. They almost look like seashells, like, they're just quite amazing. So wherever you go along the nature trail, you just see something lovely. And when the new lakes were built, we never planted any flowers, but suddenly in the spring, as soon as the lake was built, it was covered in these beautiful white mayflowers and these gorgeous pink flowers, which some people think might be percocalius or something like that. But it was just absolutely gorgeous. So the flowers were everywhere and we never even planted them. They just came. So yeah, that's kind of what the nature trail is about. It's just for people to come and marvel at the wonders of nature and to enjoy the wildlife. So if you have any questions about the nature trail, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, you can put questions in the chat or feel free to ask out loud. Just unmute yourself. Do we have any questions about the nature trail at this point? I'm just looking through. It doesn't look like we do. And I spotted there's a question in the chat around are polytunnels superior to glass houses? And I guess the answer to this is it really depends on your context and how much money you have and all of this sort of thing. For the size that Claver Hill is working on, to afford glass houses that size would cost so much more. So polytunnels made sense. It's the cheaper way of creating indoor growing climate. Yeah, and also the site's pretty exposed. I wonder what it would be like to have glass on that site. Also, as you will hear, we have visitors to the site. Again, I don't know what a glass house would be like for some of our visitors. Yeah, so I don't think one's superior to the other. But it's clear in our climate, particularly in the northwest, with a short growing season and increasingly unpredictable climate, indoor growing is going to play a really important role in supporting with food sovereignty and food security, just because it's becoming increasingly hard to both store crops outside and start crops off if you don't have that indoor growing space. Okay, I still don't see any questions for Kathy, so let's go on to another project. How about the flower farm? Laura Martin?
Hello. Basically, we started growing cut flowers about 2.5 years ago on an allotment where we used to live, and the unexpected consequence of that was a transformation in our happiness. It's a good way of putting it. And we realised, what about if we could get other people involved, show people that it's doable. So we took the plunge, we approached everyone at Claver Hill and, you know, put forward our idea. We moved to Lancaster and now we're growing. So basically we've got two parts to the project essentially. We have the growing side and then we sell the cut flowers to the public, and the income that makes allows us to do the community activities. So the first one that was able to take place happened last week on Zoom, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Martin was doing the filming, he was my glamorous assistant. So we're starting already to get people involved, and we'd like to do more in the future. That's certainly the plan. Everything we grow is organically done, so no nasty chemicals. It's freshly picked when we grow them, so there's nothing that's been shipped in a container that uses lots of chemicals to keep them cool. We've got everything that's locally grown, so there's no things that are being imported from abroad. There's no air miles at all, and there's very few road miles even, because we sell them at the market in the city centre, so it's a 5-minute drive away, so not far at all. We're already finding that there's lots of people locally who are interested in this project, and so we pass on the message about Claver Hill as well, and so hopefully we'll get more and more people interested in both sides of that. I think one of the things I'm most enjoying is I think we can see the potential for other people benefiting from helping out with us in the future mentally, because it's changed our lives so much and our health. We've already had a few people asking if they can help out with us, so something we're building up to, hopefully will be a project to do with that. We've been talking to someone who's got experience with therapy farming, so hopefully in the new year we can have a think about that, talk about it more with the committee, and then you never know, you might see that future project on the go. The other thing that we're really focusing on with the flower farm is making sure that the wildlife and nature isn't completely trampled out by the we were based on our allotment. We had tons and tons of birds, all kinds of animals. We had newts, you name it, we attracted it. So we've done the same here, just on a slightly bigger scale. So instead of using chemicals, which would obviously damage the environment and insects and animals, we've got small ponds at the end of our growing bays, and they attract frogs and toads who manage the pests naturally, but also now have a habitat. So we're seeing a lot of insects and animals come in. We're working with the bees as well. So when the original beekeeper lady brought her bee colony a few months ago, we very quickly started to notice that the bees were coming using our flowers, which was incredible. It was amazing to see. And they're so calm as well, really happy bees. So that's exciting. And we've got a mini meadow at the front of the patch, and we're also going to be planting some flowers for like a bee band near the bee enclosure, and so all of those flowers are going to help to support the bee colony as well.
Thank you, Laura.
Right, you're welcome.
Are there any questions about the flower farm, or questions for Laura or Martin? I'm not seeing any hands up, not seeing anything in the chat, so that's fine. You can come back to it if you want to. All right, let's go to the sewing cafe. Ooh. So I'm going to read it out because I can't read it in my head whilst asking. So I'm a transport geek rather than a grower. So as Claver is so close to the city centre, just wondering if you've considered electric cargo bikes for travel between home, market and the site.
We have actually considered bikes with trailers on the back, but it's something that we need to properly sit down and think about. Martin cycles round for the deliveries, so when people order bouquets, we've got a little box that was strapped to the pannier on the back of the bikes, and they're delivered that way, which is obviously very eco-friendly. But no, we're definitely looking into a way that we can move the flowers en masse that doesn't involve petrol.
Yeah, and it's worth saying that as at Claver Hill as a whole, when we first started getting people from the asylum or refugee community through our City of Sanctuary network, it became clear that people were relying on cars and lifts to get to the site. So that sparked the Bikes for Lancaster group, who have started collecting and fixing up bikes to make them, some of them basically new bikes that people just haven't used, and they fix up bikes and give them to people who would use them and need them. And so there have been points where particularly the guides have been coming up on bicycle, so we facilitated that project as well from the site. Okay, so there aren't any more questions, so I'll go to Sewing Cafe Lancaster. And Katrina, are you talking to this?
Yep, I'll start out, but I think we've got the whole team here today, so please chip in if there's anything I miss out. So Sewing Cafe have been getting kind of increasingly involved with natural dyes for about 2.5 years. And the reason that we do that is that we're increasingly concerned about the amount of pollution that's caused by the textile industry. And that's in terms of both the environmental costs of that and the costs on human health. So we felt as part of our kind of like sewing work, we felt that sort of natural dyes was a really important aspect of our kind of textile upcycling, which we do a lot of. So we have been dyeing for quite a while, but didn't have any sort of growing space. So around about this April, we decided that we really wanted to start to grow our own plants, because for us it's really important that our plants and all our ingredients are as locally sourced as possible. So as the 4 members of the team, Victoria, Kathy, Gina and Enda, are already heavily involved at Claver Hill, they began talking with Claver Hill, who very kindly welcomed us to get involved and get some space at Claver Hill. So that resulted in some raised beds. We've got 3 raised beds and then 3 beds on the ground. And we've also got big hopes for next year that we'll be able to do quite a lot of planting around the nature trail as well. So we need to source suitable plants for that. So mainly we've got in 2 raised beds, we've got like a living collection, because we're really keen to like pass on our kind of knowledge onto others. So we've got 2 quite substantial raised beds that at the moment contain about species of dye plants, and we've done that so that for starters it looks really attractive, but also it's about people that come onto site can go and have a look at the annoying cat here. So people can come onto site and have a look at the plants. We're devising labels at the moment, so they'll be clearly labelled with information about what part of the plant you could use. So, and also we would like to back that up with information, so that to encourage people to grow their own plants at home. And we'll also be collecting seeds from the dye plants, so that we can distribute those and again encourage people to grow their own plants. So we also hope to hold workshops on natural dyeing, and camps, and we're hoping that we can do a camp with Spud Club next year, and we'll be doing t-shirts there with the Spud Club logo on. So we've just got ourselves a screen print that we can do that, and at the moment I'm trying to cook up some natural screen printing liquids so that we can, the stuff that we're going to print with will be from Claver Hill. So what else on this cat? Right. So we've also worked with Food Futures, and that was a project that we did on Claver Hill as well. And that project was around, a member of Food Futures was very keen to re-establish purging buckthorn plants in the Yorkshire Dales, because they're very few and far between at the moment. Now it's quite, it's a very strong dye plant, purging buckthorn. So the whole team, along with Melanie from Food Futures, got together a few weeks ago to extract dye from berries and leave the seeds so that the seeds could be germinated to make plants for that will be grown in the Yorkshire Dales. And they also gave us some plants, so we'll be able to grow our own crop at Claver Hill. It's a really beautiful plant, and it's a really lovely bright yellow, which is really weird considering the dye looks really purple when you extract it. But you also get quite a range of colours, get a really nice green there as well. So that was a very exciting dye bath and a great project, and we've got plants to look forward to in the future. So as far as the plants we've got absolutely quite a big range. We've got calendula, we've got coreopsis, French marigold, St John's wort, alkanets, woad, weld, madder, Dyer's greenwood, and tansy. I've probably missed a few off there, but it's a really nice variety of plants. And I think it's really exciting to see which plants you know, are going to particularly thrive in our environment, because they're obviously going to be the most effective to grow. We did actually have a dye camp ourselves just as soon as the main lockdown ended and you were allowed to spend a night away from home. We had a very successful dye camp, really, just with the team, and that was kind of an experiment to see was it a good thing to do, and would it be something we would better do with a wider range of people. So the dye camp really focused mainly on the dock plants, and Kathy's great desire to get rid of as many dock plants as possible off the site. So we did a dye with dock root, which involved loads and loads of plants getting dug up, and also we did a dock leaf dye as well. So we've got sort of different shades of dock there. And we also, it's I don't think you can really see that colour too well here. It's a really nice sort of buff shade. And while we also had an absolutely delicious dinner from vegetables on the site, which was fantastic. And we noticed we were having some really lush vegetable peelings. So we were able to make a dye out of the carrot tops as well, which was a really, really lovely, vivid yellow. So that was great. And then we also did some eco printing with the leaves. So that's a really nice piece there. Really lovely detailed pictures of leaves. So that was a really successful event, especially eating the glorious vegetables from Claver Hill, as well as using the veg waste and other
products from the ground. Oh, and t-shirt, there's Kathy with her dye camp t-shirt. So yeah, we had special sleepover t-shirts. I've got mine here. So these were upcycled from a conference from about the year 2000, and they had a really gaudy plasticky printed logo on them, and Victoria had an absolute massive pile of these t-shirts. So we upcycled them with natural dyes and then put an eco print panel on them. So it was a really, really good way to use t-shirts that really probably were just destined for landfill, really. They were great quality cotton, so that was a very enjoyable dye experience. So Spud Club, your t-shirts will be next. So I don't know if any of the others on the team want to say anything I'm highly likely to have missed out.
Well, you haven't really, Katrina, but I was just thinking there when we saw the t-shirts that some of the t-shirts were dyed in avocado.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
We can't hear you, Enda. Maybe if you turn your video off, it will help with the audio connection.
Can you hear me? Can
you
hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I'm sorry. I was just saying that you used for the t-shirts avocado stones.
Yeah.
And
onion peelings.
So those kind of things as well gave really beautiful colours, didn't they?
They did, yeah. And actually, it was all the dye that I used for that project. It was all waste dye, so it was already like dye that had been used to dye other textiles and then stored up, and then it was a great way to use it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody's got any questions about our project.
There's one from Glenn. How did you get the plastic print off the t-shirts?
I didn't. I just scoured the t-shirt so it really softened it, and I've just covered it over with the eco-printed patch. So I thought it would cause quite a bit of damage to the textile if I tried to remove it. So sadly, it's still lurking underneath the lovely print.
Any other questions? A very basic question. Do you have toilet on? Oh, sorry. Go on, Victoria.
We are also experimenting with different products, and we develop a sample that she's got behind. We have connections with the recycling center of the university, so everything that is left behind by the students. So we had the opportunity to go there and check what can we use, especially bedding. We bring the bedding that is in really good condition, 100% natural fibers, take them to our refugee group drop-in. We give them away clothes every month. Whatever is not claimed there, we use it for our natural dyes experiments. So the cowl Katrina is wearing at the moment, it was dyed with that, but also we develop other things that are available in single step in the local shop, and hopefully we will get our option to buy them online.
Great, thank you. Are there any more questions for Sewing Cafe Lancaster and the Natural Dyes project before I go on to the toilet question? Where did you learn about natural dyeing? Was it a case of trial and error? And this is from Sarah, who says Sarah's done a little eco printing and small dyeing projects to varied results.
Okay, well, I did textiles at uni, but that's a long time ago. I graduated in 1981. And on that course, we had to dye all of our textiles. Everything was brought into college in its natural state. So I learned a lot about chemical dyeing, but we also did do a few weeks on natural dyeing. But I do have to say that in 1981, I was just a complete lover of very, very bright pink, bright turquoise, the brightest, the better, as everybody was at that time. So when we did did the project on natural dyes at college, it was about, well, this is a bit dull, isn't it? You know, which, you know, is terrible to think I thought like that, but I did. Years ago, I found my samples from college, and given that these are now 40 years old, I could not believe the intensity of the colour that had remained on these samples of wool that, you know, okay, they've probably been kept in a cupboard, but, you know, 40 years on, the colour was really, really strong. And I just kind of looked at all the plants that we'd used, and I just kind of, from that minute, thought, right, I just want to get really back into that. So I did have quite a sort of like solid knowledge of dyeing, and actually, even though obviously chemical and natural dyeing are completely different, but there's still quite a few principles about how you deal with yarn and how yarn or cloth absorbs colour, etc., that's common to chemical and natural dyeing. But I think time has moved on a lot. I mean, obviously, going back 40 years ago, eco-printing hadn't really been invented at all, or I mean, it had happened in, you know, since probably ancient time in some ways, but it wasn't really developed as a technique till about, I think I would say about 20 years ago. So there are some fantastic books out there. I'm a big fan of Jenny Dean, who's written a book called Wild Colour. I'm also extremely impressed with India Flint, who's the woman who really developed eco-printing in its modern form. There's some amazing stuff out there on the internet, but also, however much you learn and however much you read, you'll never quite know what's going to come out of your dye bath. It's a little bit like developing your own pictures. You know all the chemistry and you know all of the, but you know, putting all those processes and chemicals together, you're not quite sure what you're going to get, and there's some really lovely surprises and occasionally some disappointments, but usually more you know, great results. So it is trial and error, and I think it's just also meticulously recording what you did, and you know, what quantities of this and that you use, so you've got a reference, and if you do want to go back to redo something or try and get the same effect, then you've got a bit of a chance if you took some notes.
Thank you. And
oh, dock roots.
Yes, there's an offer of lots of dock roots.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Because my sister was so impressed with the dock root colour. She sort of said, oh, can you make me an outfit of that? I was like, oh, I need a lot of dock roots. But yes, I'll have them, Laura.
Excellent.
Yeah,
we have so many.
We've got hundreds of them that we dug up, so they're very easily accessible. If you want them, we can get
right,
them.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're seeing Doc with new eyes, which is good.
Well, I did do a dye bath with dock seed last week, and that was successful too. So, you know, as many seeds can be gleaned, and that's a good way to stop future plants. Just boil up the seeds.
I see some dancing going on in Gina's camera, but anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah. Who's that speaking?
Yes, I just would like to add that a part of the plants that they are growing, a part of the living collection that is in Claver Hill about natural dyes. Katrina we are exploring around the plants around the area in Lancaster, native plants, and Katrina has been trying with different techniques. No with techniques, not just with the techniques that they are in books or we can see on YouTube videos or other places, but she's exploring different plants, and that is very interesting to add new things about natural dyes today, like in a modern way and in a modern times. And at the moment, it's possible. We are going to do a guide about the plants, but it's going to be in the future, but we are working on it. Yes.
That sounds really exciting. Will that guide go online, or will it be in a video or a book?
This is a biodiversity natural guide with rapid color guides of Museum of Chicago in USA, and they have been asking us about the project, and they will love to public. And they have been working in those guides for 10 years, and that this is a big program around the planet, and they have guides in Latin America and in tropical plants. But they would like to introduce this because they found that this is something that they are very impressed, because it's something new, and in Europe, like that rescue, that knowledge about natural dyes, especially now with the synthetic dyes and the problem with pollution, and is something that we know now.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing. I didn't know about that.
Just to clarify, she's a biologist, so she's the biologist, and so bringing that scientific knowledge to the group as well. So
Yeah, I guess that just demonstrates the beauty of projects like this and all the different skills different people bring, and with that the connections that come from that, and with that becomes community resilience, I guess. So I'm going to go back to what Michael has described as a big one. Do we have a toilet on site? The answer is yes. We have a compost toilet. It's quite a beautiful compost toilet, and we got funding from the lottery for it. Kathy, you look after the compost toilet a lot. Do you want to talk about the process we use for that?
Yeah, sure. It's basically just a nice big lovely wooden shed with a toilet seat, and underneath the toilet seat we have a very small wheelie bins, and so the waste goes into the wheelie bin, and every time you use it you just sprinkle a little bit of, well, we prefer small wood chips, but sometimes we have to do with sawdust because it just depends on what the local joiner can give us for free. And it's got a tap on there, so I leave the tap open so the liquid rolls out onto your comfrey bed, and which comfrey can then be used for fertilizer anyway, and the solid waste, which is quite a lot of the wood chip, which smells nice, because especially if it's pine and that, and now this might sound a little bit crude, but I hope I don't offend your tender ears, but every once in a while I give it a stir, and that just sort of helps settle it down. And you can use the one wheelie bin for a lot longer if you give it a stir from now and again. And then when it is full, I take it out and put a new wheelie bin underneath, and then the other wheelie bin I let it sit for a year, and then I take it and dig a hole out in the orchard, and I put it in the orchard. But by that time, it's just like toilet paper and stuff is decomposed, so it's just a bit of sort of wood chips sort of stuff, and it doesn't matter. It goes in the orchard then, so it doesn't hurt anybody. And yeah, so that's how we use our compost toilet.
Thank you. I had something else to say on that. I can't remember. No, it's gone. That's fine. There aren't any questions at the moment in the chat. I've just posted the link to the Claver Hill video. Gina, you're getting lots of nice feedback on the video. People like it, so it's good.
And there was one a bit earlier asking if the site was managed anywhere on a veganic basis, from Glenn, quite a way up though.
Veganic. So that's an interesting question. So the answer is no. We're not certified organic. We do have some animal inputs into the site. Basically, at the moment, we have, like, the whole project has evolved very organically, and we haven't really had that sort of conversation. So the compost that we have used has come from where we can get it locally, which has been a mushroom farm. So we've had spent mushroom compost that we've used on the no-dig beds, and occasionally we get given manure. I think there are a couple of us that would be interested in trialing veganic methods, but again, we don't at the moment. We're reviewing our governance structure and how we even make that sort of decision. So that might be something that we come back to later. And so for people who don't know, veganic describes a way of growing that is essentially organic, uses organic cultivation methods, but without any animal inputs. And there's various reasons why you might try that sort of system. Quite a famous veganic grower in the UK is Ian Tolhurst, if you want to look at an example of how you can have that sort of system. Yeah, so no, we're not at the moment. So I am going to talk a little bit about the seed library, unless Dennis, do you want to say anything? Dionysius Tuliatos. No. Oh, someone's trying to unmute, but it's not working. I'm just going to talk because we don't have much time. So Dennis is involved in the seed library as well as me. And this year we are going... Dennis, do you want to talk about the seed library?
Well, yeah, I have a quick presentation.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. Oh, what's happening with where's
Dennis,
the mouse?
I don't know.
Okay, fine.
How long is it?
2 minutes.
Okay, go on.
But am I sharing my screen?
Not yet. Oh, I need to give you sharing rights. Well, you should be able to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the seed library is a project that's linked to Claver Hill, but also to the wider community and other seed libraries around the world. So it was set up in 2015 by money we got from the lottery, and it was set up by Transition Lancaster and Credible Edible Lancaster. It has two basic elements. The first element is it's based at the Central Lancaster Library, which, the one element is at the Central Library and the other element is at Claver Hill. So the way the seed library works, it's based on 3 steps. So people borrow seeds and learn how to save seed either by joining our workshops or coming to Claver Hill to learn how to grow and how to save seed. They grow the seed and they save seed from the plants they've grown. And then when they harvest, they use the seed, they use the plant, but also it's good if they return some seeds to the seed library to keep it going. So we have this circle of seed saving and seed growing. So the one element is at the Central Library in Lancaster, which we have these 2 cabinets, the outgoing and the incoming. In the incoming, people bring seeds that they saved, and we have a look at them, check the quality, and then move them to the outgoing cabinet where people can take the seed. And also we put seed that we saved in the outgoing. And seeds, taking seeds. And also the cabinets that have legs. So this is one example on Potato Day, which happens every January, February in Lancaster. And we take the cabinets with us, and we, people walk by and take seeds. We demonstrate how to save seed. Here in this picture, I'm saving quinoa seed, for example, that we grown at Claver Hill. And the other element is at Claver Hill, where we have these growing beds where they are it's like our lab. So we grow unusual plants to save seed and to adapt them to the local conditions in Lancaster. So we've been growing, for example, quinoa or seeds from around the world, like seeds from Palestine, from Italy, from South America. And these are the giant sunflowers we've been growing. This is our quinoa. And also during the lockdown, on the Friday before the lockdown happened, we went to the library, we took all our seeds home, and then because the library closed because of the lockdown, and we were posting them to people, so we adapted to the changes, and now throughout the summer, people have grown the seeds, and they're gonna send some seed back, so have a Facebook page, Lancaster Seed Library, or come to Claver Hill and there will be someone to show you how to save seed, and just join Claver Hill or the Lancaster Seed Library. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
that was an unexpected presentation. Thank you. And just to build on that, so Dennis mentioned that we used to use a central library and the cabinets within that library to support in the distribution of seeds. And with the library closing, that wasn't possible during lockdown. And so Victoria came up with this idea to create these mini libraries that have been put up in 3 locations at the moment around Lancaster. So on the street, and they've been made by a local woodsman. And so we're now going to be putting the seeds that we've saved from this year into those mini libraries that are called so-and-so libraries. And I'm sure we can put a link in the chat so you can have a look at that project. But yeah, essentially we're going to be putting the seeds as well as sowing supplies into those little libraries for people to then borrow and share. And before we hear from Rachel again, I just want to say that this year has really demonstrated the vulnerability of many different systems. And for those that have been growing for a long time, it might be the first year where it was actually quite hard to get hold of seeds. And if you think about the UK, we currently don't have a commercial seed company really that is based in the Northwest. And so it like a big underlying thing around food sovereignty is that you also need seed sovereignty. And so our Food Futures vision is to have seed libraries and commercial seed companies based all over the UK to make sure that we're adapting seed to the different climates. And this is going to become increasingly important with climate change. And also it's really important for various reasons around agricultural biodiversity and things like this. So we don't sell any seeds. We're not interested in that. We're interested in bringing back a culture of seed saving. And actually, if you look back towards the history of seed companies, they're only about 100 years old or something. Before that, we had rich traditions of saving and swapping seeds. And that's really what the Lancaster Seed Library is based on and founded on. So because we're coming close to time, Rachel, do you just want to talk about the project that we're starting to create with teenagers?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Anna mentioned earlier that we have visitors on site, and especially in school holidays, we get a lot of people from the nearby estate, a lot of young people from the nearby estate, sort of wandering past the site and sometimes coming onto site and causing a few issues, but nothing really very major. Yet actually, considering that we're not a locked site, we have no kind of fences, it is an open area, and that's kind of part of the ethos is that we want it to be a community resource, and the community is also the community that's right next door. So it's near, right next to a big housing estate. It's full of families and young people, and actually not that many of them. Like Kathy, you were talking about people, older ladies from the site who'd come on and had got involved with the nature trail, and we have a couple of kids that come onto site, and obviously we have some families that come onto site. But we're really keen to try and reach out to people that aren't coming onto site that actually live right next to it. And Veer wasn't here to talk about the refugee project, but that's been really fantastic. Having someone that actually was given some paid time to really develop a project and reach out to his people in the community, the refugee community. And particularly because Veer himself is a refugee, he also has that kind of understanding of what it's like to be in that position and why you might not come to a project such as Claver Hill. And so we're taking the same approach kind of with setting up some projects around engaging with younger people. And there's a few of us on the side that are interested, like obviously Laura and Martin are interested through their flower farm. Others of us are also interested. And so we're going to form a group, and there's kind of 2 aspects to it. One aspect will be going through the school, because actually the site itself is overlooked by a high school. And then the other aspect will be a bit longer term, which is kind of developing a youth engagement project with someone who has worked on the estate for a long time, other people that work in the community with younger people, particularly younger people if they come from harder kind of backgrounds, kind of developing our skills as a group for being able to host people on site, and then finding funding to actually fund someone that can run some dedicated projects with that community. So yeah, that's our plan. It's obviously, we started thinking about it before lockdown, and it's been a slow process, but I think it's good to take the time to develop our skills as well as a community that exists on the site, to be able to host and offer opportunities that are really relevant and kind of welcoming, and created also by the young people themselves. But yeah, that's probably about it.
Thank you. And are there any questions for Rachel about that, or any further questions about seeds? No? Great. So I'm going to start wrapping up. So I saw that, Glenn, you are keen to be involved in something like this, and it's a common question for people to ask, how do I get involved, or how do I start something? The power of holding local community conversations can't be underestimated. From these conversations, visions for projects often emerge that, in my experience, do become a reality, even if it's a couple of years later. If you have a vision of what you want to achieve, and you have an attitude of let's just crack on and have a go at doing this, it's amazing what can come out. And for community gardens and growing projects, there's a really good national network that can offer guidance and support, called the City Farms and Gardens Network. And I really recommend going to look at their website. They have lots of tips on how you set up a project from scratch. Again, the Incredible Edible Network has a lot of people with experience and guidance to support with this. And the Sustainable Food Places Network is another space where you can get or be put in touch with people that will be very supportive of supporting this sort of initiative in your place. To close up, does anyone feel like they have something to share that they would, any closing remarks or takeaway message before we leave each other? Anyone from Claver Hill or anyone else? I'll just have a look through my different screens to see. No?
I'd just like to say, because I previously wasn't involved in Claver Hill before the Dye project, and I'd just say it is just such a lovely, wonderful environment, and everybody is just so friendly and helpful, and it's just a fantastic place to be. And I'm so glad that in a small part I'm involved in it now. Thank you.
That's such a nice place to finish, so let's stop there. I hope this hour and a half was useful and offered you inspiration. We can stop recording now, probably, Claire.